Hey guys, how you guys doing today? Hope you're doing well, or tonight. It's daylight savings time. It's only 7 o'clock, not 8 o'clock. But anyway, on a Sunday night, just wanted to come on here and talk about my experience with doing research. I'm going to have a surgery done. And I've done enough research and found a couple different doctors. The first doctor I thought I was going to go with because of his website and propping him up like he's this wonderful guy, and so my expectation was pretty high when I went in there to his office to set up a consultation. Since I'm paying for the surgery out of my pocket, the consultation was free. But everybody said on the website, all the different reviews, oh, he takes his time, he answers all your questions, he really took the time to make people feel comfortable. So that's my expectation of going in there. Granted, expectation is what gets us in trouble. If you have an expectation of something and it doesn't meet your expectation, that's a problem. And this is the first time I've experienced this. And I haven't had a lot of surgeries done. So I knew I was going to have surgery. So I thought I'd, set up a consultation, see if I felt comfortable with this guy. Well, I get in there and everybody seems like they're in a hurry, and it seems like people have been waiting, so I don't know why the doctor would be behind with scheduling out appointments. And if you are, just let the person know that you're running behind, and that's fine. But it seems like he wanted to make up the time with me and not answer all my questions. So I go in the room, they take my blood pressure, everything seems to be fine, and then the doctor comes in and I start, he does a quick examination, says, yeah, this will be easy peasy, blah, blah, blah. I ask about not using mesh. And he said, well, I can, but it won't last for 5 years, blah, blah, blah. Well, mind you, the mesh that they're using has a lot of lawsuits. And he said, it's not the same kind that was used on your mother and blah, 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 because my mom had a mesh used and it didn't work and they had to take it out. So, yeah. He was just very arrogant, and that was the first time. I didn't get any of my questions answered, and I even said to the girl, they had me watch this video, they wanted me to be part of the research study, which I was not going to be, and then and the next video was hiring, if I was going to go through insurance, what they knew I wasn't, how I could hire their medical assistant to get the insurance to get it covered and everything else. Okay, so I spent more time watching videos after the meeting with the doctor. So anyway, sorry, I'm trying to pull up my socks here. Yeah. And I just got in the car and I thought, God, I must be making a big deal about this surgery. And I'm not, because I did enough research on it to know that using plastic mesh in your body is not the way to go, that they have a different mesh. I didn't know about the different mesh, but I didn't really want to have any kind of mesh put in my body, and I thought he could do the surgery without using mesh. Well, he said he's good. Okay, so I didn't feel comfortable enough. I thought, well, for the next week, I was thinking that I was making too big of a deal about this, that this is really not that big of a surgery. It is. It is a big surgery because we're dealing with stuff in our abdomen, and he's going to do it laparoscopic, which is fine. But I didn't get to tell him about all the other hernias I've got in my abdomen, in my around my stomach, around my esophagus. I've got a couple bilateral, I think they call them hernias, or I don't know, hiatal hernias. And he didn't have a scan on me. And so I called back a week later and I said, I really didn't get all my questions answered. I'd like to come either. I thought about emailing them the questions. And I thought, you know what? No, I didn't get what I want. He spent 7 minutes with me and I need to go back in. So I called him back and I said, I just need to set up an appointment, another consultation. So she went through the whole thing. She asked me, I said, I just need to come in and ask more questions to feel comfortable about this surgery. Granted, this is my second surgery that I've had, and not for this particular problem. Before I had a surgery where they had to remove a tumor out of my neck, and that took longer than what the doctor expected, and he had images and everything else, and it was like 3 hours longer than what he told me I was going to be on the table. So and everything worked out fine. It was what I told him, and I said, I think it's bigger than what you think. And he goes, well, I saw the MRI images, it'll be easy peasy. I do this all the time. He was a specialist in tumors removed out of your neck, and so, but everything worked out fine. But that was my only experience as far as being put under for surgery. So I actually took a trip, as you guys know. I went to Santa Barbara and Morro Bay and up to Cambria and all that along the coast. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Great trip. So I had to come back to have the second consultation. And you would think that if I'm scheduling a second consultation that maybe he might take the time. But I want to say, when I was setting up the appointment before, she said at the end of the conversation that I might be charged for it. And I said, oh, that's fine. I said, whatever, if I am going to be charged, I didn't say this to her, if I'm going to be charged, he's definitely going to spend some time and answer my questions. So I go in there for my appointment. The girl puts me in a room, and he comes in. And he comes in with an attitude. He had an attitude before, and then I just said, I don't think I want to have you use mesh in me. He goes, I'm not going to do the surgery without using mesh. So the option before, I could, but now, because I'm asking questions, he's not going to let me have the choice. Then he said a few other things to me. Now, for my understanding, why, if you didn't want to do a second consultation, why didn't you just say no? Why come in with an attitude? Is it because you're full of yourself and nobody else questions you? He says, I do 600 hernia surgeries a year. I don't care. I want my questions answered. And I want not the short answer. You don't have to spend 2 hours with me. Just spend enough time to answer my questions and not just poo-poo my questions that I have. And that's exactly what this guy did. And he says, I'm not going to spend 2 hours with you to try to make you feel comfortable about this surgery that I've done 600 times and I've never had any problems. Well, mind you, he's a surgeon. He's just like an auto mechanic, like somebody on an assembly line that just installs engines in cars. That's the way his thinking is. I don't care that you've done 600 surgeries. That doesn't mean anything. How successful are you with? I've never had a problem. Never had a problem, and you've done 600 surgeries a year. Never had a problem. Maybe you haven't heard of the problem. Maybe you haven't, because of the simple fact they come back 2 weeks later after you've done the surgery and everything seems to go fine. But then after that appointment, you're done and gone with them. No more talking to them about that. And you've never had a problem? Okay, now I see what's going on, because he told me on some of the questions that I had, he wanted me to talk to my general practitioner. This involves your work that you're going to do on me. These questions are not out of the air questions about my general health. This is about what you're going to do in surgery. And he poo-pooed the questions that I had and basically said, I can't make you feel more comfortable about this surgery. And then he goes back to the 600 surgeries he's done. That doesn't matter. You're doing surgery on me. Stop treating me like I'm just a number. Because your website and what you say is everybody says you spend a lot of time. Now I'm thinking, I don't think that's the case. I think that is just marketing material. And I think that he treats, because the last time I was there was a couple that was there, and the woman said, wow, that didn't take very much time, and he didn't even answer a couple of your questions the right way, and they were leaving. I don't think they set up a surgery. I think the guy said, oh, I'll have to get back to you when they went through the whole surgery thing. So I don't think I think they had other questions, just like I had questions. So I wasn't really glad to see that or hear that when they were walking out, when I was sitting down waiting to be put in a room. But I think that this is his thing. He's done so many of these, and he doesn't seem to have a problem, and he doesn't have the open mentality of a person. He's just the mechanic, and this is what's worked for him, so we're just going to do it on 500 people, whether it works or not, and he's not really going to know. You know, he said he's never had a problem. That doesn't seem right, especially with all the lawsuits with mesh and all the stuff that's going on, that's been going on, that's still going on. There are still lawsuits against mesh. And it's always the polymer-based one that they're having the lawsuits. It's not the natural one that they've come up with in the last 5 years that they're using, because it disintegrates after 12 to 18 months, which is fine. I want my body to heal. I don't want my body to have a foreign substance in it, especially plastic. When they're talking about not drinking water out of water bottles because of the microplastics and, you know, everything else. So I'm really disappointed. Needless to say, I rescheduled the surgery, and I have all other alternatives. I'm going to get a second opinion to try to talk to another doctor that does this. He's not the only doctor. And I think the whole thing is his whole marketing scheme is trying to make people comfortable. And it's like his website does not match up with his bedside manner. And I know that some people say, oh, well, the surgeons, some of the best surgeons out there don't have very good bedside manner. I don't care. That doesn't mean I have to have them just because they're good at what they do. That doesn't mean that I have to feel comfortable with this guy. This guy is going, and he was just angry. He was angry that I was questioning any of his I wasn't questioning it. I had questions about the surgery, about the recovery, and I wasn't getting those questions answered. And I was asking why you can't use a different mesh. He told me the mesh that I was talking about, oh, nobody uses it. It's not good mesh. It's not this. Nobody uses it. And I'm like, yeah, you don't use it because you're getting a kickback from the mesh that you're using. And that's why you want me part of the research study, which I wouldn't do anyway, because you're going to sit here and try to tell me that you've never had any issues with mesh and you do this many surgeries, which 600 surgeries a year is not really a lot. Maybe for hernia it is, but it's different hernias. It's not just one of the same hernias. But the fact of the matter is I wouldn't be so pushy about doing 600 surgeries. That just makes me think that he might be a butcher. He might be good at what he's doing, but it might be a butcher when you're not open to the kind of mesh that I wanted him to use or talk about. He wouldn't even talk about the reason people aren't using it. Nobody uses it. You mean you don't use it? And that's what you figure. You are the only person that doesn't use it, because other surgeons do. So anyway, let me know in the comments if you've had this experience. Like I said, my last surgery that I had, I loved the surgeon. He answered all my questions. I felt very comfortable, and the surgery went fine. I don't want to go into a man that's outright angry with me and poo-pooing my questions. And my questions weren't complicated questions. They were just, I wanted to know why. And I guess when you question a surgeon that's been doing this for a long time, I don't need to have him do a surgery. I don't need to be 601 on his list. So anyway, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. And if you like this video, like and subscribe.